As a kid, like many others around my age, I collected Goosebumps books. They were, in many respects, rather silly, and even then I didn't find them particularly scary, but between the smell of the pages, the sometimes fantastic covers, and the way they could be traded like baseball cards when you had doubles left me absolutely loving them. Some were a little special. They had lenticular covers, much like a desirable Pokemon card, but the real difference was inside. They were the choose-your-own-adventure novels in the series. The Goosebumps novels were already very short, so jamming in multiple endings and choices didn't leave much room for a compelling narrative, and indeed I preferred the regular books, but they fascinated me. Not because of any individual choices in them, but because consuming them gave something of an insight into the writing process. Some endings were clearly disposable, short, silly dead ends or anticlimaxes that were only really there to pad up the number of endings, while others were obviously more well developed and quote-unquote the real endings. The other element of these particular books I found really interesting were that in taking all of the endings together, they said more than they did alone. Where the regular books were typically harmless and ultimately low-stakes adventures, in these multiple endings you could find failure or death, and taken all together they added up to a message that victory wasn't certain, that survival wasn't guaranteed, and that outcomes in reality would rarely be so neat and contained as those found in the rest of the series. Together they introduced an uncertainty that I didn't see in other media at the time. I won't say this was a particularly mature or wise take when I was a kid. It was more of a cool, it has different endings sort of thing. But they held an interest that went beyond what the often incredibly lame narratives would usually merit. I tend to intellectualize media I consume. It becomes more than just entertainment, but a set of morals and guidelines by which I might better understand and live my life. Is it silly to look for that in, for example, a kid's cartoon? I guess, but it sure is more fun than seeking the same in real philosophers' works. Recently, I've been facing some choices I need to make, and instead of exploring them the normal way, I thought back to the choose-your-own-adventure novels of my youth, and thought I'd explore my options in a similar way, as usual through the lens of media. So, to begin, do you want more of an abstract video or more of a typical one exploring Breaking Bad? You know how this works, just click the annotation representing your choice. Enjoy! I'm really keen to know what you thought of this project.